think we are on. Good evening to the Northern Beaches mums. I just need to fill something into this chat box if I can. Hello to the Northern Beaches mum and welcome to our live stream tonight, which we are doing on behalf of the wonderful Louisa Sangira of Zippy Finance. Thank you for devoting your time to us tonight. I know that you're all very, very busy. Scotty and I are going to try and keep this as succinct as possible and hopefully be able to impart with you some of our knowledge in sharing with you what it is that our criteria has done over the past in how to find the very best investment properties one can. My name is Warren Jacobs. This is my colleague Scott Monaghan. We are the investment consultants at the Aviate Group. Both of us, incidentally, are North Shore lads. Scotty comes from the beaches. I come from the Upper North Shore in Pymble. So if we are down the track wanting to get together to meet to see if our methodology is in fact a good fit for each other, getting together is not going to be too difficult at all. So just so that you know, you saw me messing around trying to get that little chat box thing going. Scotty and I will be conducting a seminar for Louisa and Zippy and her accountant at the Pittwater RSL on the 23rd of this month. It's the 23rd of August. And if you'd like to attend, please simply click on that little chat box and reserve yourself a seat for the night, which should be a very informative night and one which we will go through in a lot more detail than we do tonight. We also encourage you, please, to use that chat box. We're going to take some questions later on so we can finish off, and Scotty and I will endeavour to answer what we can. If you're wanting to share or like or make any comments in that chat box, please go ahead and do so. Feel free to do so. But we'll have a quick introduction. Aviate has been successfully supporting investors in this rather tricky space now through our referral partners for the past 16 years, and really are the only provider who do have multiple sign-offs from different financial institutions. And as I mentioned to you, we've been doing so successfully now for 16 years. We have had a methodology. We've never wavered from that methodology, which is made up of 32 very critical keys under which sit 108 different criteria. And as we know, most investors probably use 3 or 4, location and price and a bit of amenity to make their decisions. And by imposing this strict methodology on what we do, we are significantly reducing the risks associated with the investment and thereby obviously giving you a far greater chance of success. At the Pittwater seminar on the 23rd, we will go through a lot more criteria, but for the purposes of tonight, we want to just be able to talk through the 9 fundamental criteria that we believe are absolutely vital to making a solid decision. So we'll get straight into it. I'll do one, Scotty will do the other, until we get to the end, and then hopefully you will have typed up a few questions so that we can answer them for you. So number 1, it is important to know that when you're investing in something, this is purely about making money. This is not a decision about what suits your lifestyle. You're trying to make money here. So it is imperative that you're making this decision with your brain and not your heart. It's not easy to know what to be able to do in this instance. So you want to be relying on very good, solid, real research from trusted sources, people with a track record and a good reputation. Not relying on media spruiking, particularly now when interest rates are so low. You're listening to people who have an agenda in trying to sell magazines or even data collection agencies that are reporting on what's happening right now, at the minute, what's happening in the present. Whereas really one wants to be able to understand when you're investing in property, it's a long-term gain. It's a long-term operation. So it is the future of what things are going to look like that matters. The emerging markets of tomorrow and today are very, very different from the emerging markets that evolved decades ago, where, for instance, yesteryear you would have 5 people per dwelling. When I was a lad, 7% of us got divorced, whereas today you're looking at more like 2.6 people per dwelling and close to 50%, 48% of us getting divorced. Values have changed, and so have people's dreams and aspirations as generations come through, and this has an enormous impact on what sort of real estate holds its own, particularly when an economy is doing it tough. Things have to happen a lot quicker today for people. There are far less patience involved in trying to get to a decision. So it is very, very important to understand what those emerging markets want. And to do so, one really needs to rely on solid reputation and people who know precisely what they're talking about. So I'll hand over to Scotty to do number 2.
Number 2 is about being close to the greatest pools of employment. And this is really a risk minimalisation thing. It's what we want to do with our investors is put you close to the greatest pools of employment and across as many sectors as possible. And the reason we do that is, if you look at areas such as, the Gold Coast, for example, really reliant on 2 major sectors being retail and tourism. And those 2 sectors are doing really well right now. You've got record low interest rates, and people are really happy to spend money on those 2 sectors, and the Gold Coast is effectively booming right now. It's actually only just the price it was 10 years ago. But then, inevitably, these interest rates are going to go up. Those 2 sectors are probably the first 2 that people stop spending money on initially, and history says that the Gold Coast will go back down again. We're just not interested in those type of economies. We want to be across major sectors, business sectors, close to those really big pools of employment, because that's where the highest demand is anywhere in the world. And it reduces those risks when there is an economic downturn. Because it's a long-term investment. You've got to remember that right now the economy is really good, but at some point there's going to be a downturn in that economy. And you want to be protected during that as well as the good times, which it is right now.
Absolutely, Scotty. And that talks as well to the not working on your emotions. I don't know too many people who don't go to the Gold Coast and go, who wouldn't want to live here? This is fabulous. This is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, look how close the beach is. And that is very much playing with one's emotions. So
another city really quickly, talk about Melbourne, and another quick example is Geelong. And manufacturing, was the number 1 sector there. We all know what happened to the car manufacturing sector down there, and it really just shattered the whole economy in and around Geelong. Huge unemployment, lots of people having to move out, and hence people's investments went backwards.
Yeah. And the impact that has on tenancy and who can afford to pay rent. One has to have a job. So number 3 we're going to talk about tonight is the importance of being in a good pocket of a suburb, which is close to amenities, transport and infrastructure, but not on top of it. If you're looking for the type of tenants we're going to be talking about a little later in this, because data will tell you who the best tenants in the world are, you don't want things disturbing them, like buses or cars accelerating, or the smell of a Nando's chicken chimney, or the sirens from a hospital. Lousy vision and smells and sounds will offend a good tenant badly. And, this is a perfect example where someone says, look, I want to have that north-facing unit. If that north-facing unit is on a main road, opposite a hospital or behind a bus stop, as I said, below a chicken chimney or an RGA loading bay, you're going to find yourself in all sorts of bother when it comes to vacancy. You will lose your tenant every 6 months. You can lay your life on it. Yet a south-facing unit, which probably came at a cheaper price at the get-go anyway, which is in a nice, peaceful little pocket of that building, is probably going to outperform it anyway. So which is the better buy? So to be in a pocket which is not right on top of this type of infrastructure and amenity, but just sits a little bit behind it, where it's peace and quiet, you're going to get yourself a far better tenant who's going to want to stay there because it's a lot more peaceful. And in fact, when you are surveying the type of people that are downsizing, when you're asking them what is it they want most, number one is privacy, and number 2 is peace and quiet. So it's very important to understand what the pocket is that this particular the building that you're investing in is sitting in. So number 4, sir.
Number 4 is working with the best developers, architects and builders, the best team effectively. And it's probably the hardest bit to find out on your own, and really to be able to research. And, you're really trying to find it, it's sort of twofold. You want to make sure the team has a big reputation individually, that they can deliver what they say they're going to deliver, and deliver what is in the beautiful brochure that you've bought from effectively. Anyone can make up a beautiful marketing brochure. It takes a really good team to be able to deliver on that, or ideally over-deliver on it. And then secondly, you want to make sure they're all independent of each other. So your architect, your builder and your developer, you don't want them to be related or intertwined, so that if one of them gets in, maybe financial difficulty, it doesn't affect the others. They've all got their own individual reputations and really want to create something that's beautiful and lasts a long time for owner-occupiers and investors. And if you can do that, it will differentiate you in the market, but it'll also attract the best tenants who will pay more and stay longer. So it's really critical that you're able to get the research and really know what you're going to get delivered from that team, and you get a great team. It's when you get a first-time developer or someone who's really there just to get a bit of a cash grab that you hear these horror stories about not getting the fittings and fixtures, or suddenly a two-bedder turns into a one-bedder, or it's 10 square metres smaller than what you signed up for, all sorts of things. I'm sure you've all heard of them. These type of guys are there to make money. They've got no reputation to start with, so there's no risk to their reputation. It doesn't really matter if they never do another development again. You have someone who's a really big reputation that's known for delivering premium product, then it's going to, again, minimise a lot of risk.
Yeah, absolutely, and so much of it is lost up there, which is to have that insider knowledge is absolutely critical when it comes to getting the result that you wanted, or in fact the result that exceeds what you wanted. So number 5 we're going to discuss tonight is to be in a suburb where you've got some building restrictions and a soul that suits the emerging markets, a particular section of the emerging markets that we are talking about. You aren't trying to get every tenant. You are trying to get highly employable professionals, double income, no kids, single professionals, baby boomers. You're looking for a quality product that provides a fabulous lifestyle. And as Scotty mentioned, not just to tenants, but to owner-occupiers. It is the owner-occupiers that are going to keep that building honest. They are the ones that are going to go to the strata meetings. They are the ones that are going to make it all happen. So you want to be able to be investing your money in a building that attracts owner-occupiers, not just the best tenants who I mentioned a little bit before, those highly employable professionals. We're talking to you here from Sydney today. So to give you a good example of what we're talking about here is that if you look at Cleveland Street, you've got on the one side of Cleveland Street, Surrey Hills, Darlinghurst, Newtown, Camperdown. These are areas with heritage buildings, height restrictions, lots of soul, lots of restaurants, lots of cafes, a real vibe and a lifestyle that these sorts of tenants and owner-occupiers are wanting to live in. Yet on the other side of that road, which is only 7 metres of road, you're talking about Waterloo, Green Square. I mean, Green Square's got about 61,000 units coming into it over the next couple of years. And I'm sure that all of you who have driven to the airport recently and you looked on the right-hand side at building after building after building, it is a very big difference between what you're seeing in that pocket of Sydney versus the other side of Cleveland Road. And that is very clearly depicted in the rate per square metre and what the difference is in the growth of what is in, say, Surrey Hills and Darlinghurst versus what you're seeing in Green Square and Rosebery, etc. And that is what we're trying to do here as we go back to point 1. You're trying to make money. So leveraging on a growth product and having restrictions or having that desirability for these people to live in that suburb is going to make a massive difference to the supply and demand ratio of what is going to be coming as the years go by if they can continue building to the heavens. So number 6, Scotty, take her away.
Number 6 is choosing first. And this basically means, with regards to investment, it means off-market and off-plan. And it's really powerful, and it's effectively where our expertise lie. And, Warren gave an example before about being near the IGA or the main road or the chicken shop. Being able to go to a development and actually pick the apartment you want and get whatever apartment you want in that block. And it might not always be, like Warren mentioned, might not be north-facing. If south-facing is quieter, overlooking a park that's never going to be built out, then you're going to jump on that one every day of the week. But you think about it in other aspects of life. If you choose first, you get the best. And there's a reason why people line up for the Boxing Day sales. You don't turn up on the 4th of January and expect the best thing that was on sale. It's like living on the beaches. You don't go to Clontarf at lunchtime on a Saturday for your 4-year-old's birthday and expect to get the best spot. There's people lining up there and sitting there with a coffee from 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a nightmare. That's where I am at the moment in life anyway. The same thing applies. You have developments that will outperform other developments, and then you have apartments within those developments that will outperform the others as well. So it's about choosing first based on aspect, floor plan, and some of the things where I mentioned before, but choosing first is really powerful when done well.
Absolutely, mate. Those who choose first will always outperform those that choose last, which speaks very much to number 7, which is understanding the supply and demand ratio of the product. You're trying to get something special. I spoke a little bit earlier about the agencies that collect data. They're always talking about a supply or this is oversupplied in that area. They're talking in terms of Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, and brush everything with the same brush. When Scotty was talking a little bit earlier about the importance of knowing what sits behind or the teams that are bringing these things to market, around about 80% plus, they reckon, of stock that comes to market is substandard. It's not good enough. So to understand that you are purchasing a particular piece of product where the demand for that product is high and the supply is low is what the trick is. So you really are, as we mentioned before, trying to find a quality product for a quality tenant. And there's no better way of trying to attract a quality tenant than by investing your money in a quality building that attracts that sort of person. So to know what the demand ratio is of that particular product, one doesn't need to be fearful of all the spruiking that one hears about, oh my God, there's too much supply of this in a product. And we've got perfect examples, which we'll share with you at the seminar, of data collecting agencies showing you that there's a suburb which has gone backwards in terms of growth, and yet the resales in the buildings that we've recommended have shown some significant growth. Well, that doesn't happen by chance. That happens through very solid, good research and absolutely knowing what you're doing, which will lead Scotty into number 8.
So 8's about the investment and the dwelling you choose is desirable and affordable and sustainable. And this is twofold, really. It's got to be affordable and desirable to the demographic you're trying to attract. Because there's no point hoping that you're going to get $600 a week if the average rent in the area you're going to is $400 a week, or the demographic simply just can't afford that. Doesn't matter how nice it is, you're not going to get $600 a week there. So you need to make sure that the product you're investing into fits the area and will attract that premium tenant and that they can afford it. The second part is it has to be affordable for you. So you're talking about a long-term asset here. Property is a long-term asset, and you need to be able to hold it long-term. So effectively, this is a yield discussion, really. At Aviate, we're about picking areas for capital growth, but yield is really important so that you can hold it long-term. So there's no point if, in a couple of years' time, you work out that you just can't afford to hold on to this, and you might have to sell it when it's not a great time to sell, bottom of the market or for whatever reason is going on there. But, you really need to make sure that you can afford it to be able to hold it long term so that you can actually see that capital growth come to fruition. If you look at Sydney at the moment, it's grown about 85% in the last 5 years. If you think about that capital growth, you think about tenants. If you put up the rent 85% over the last 5 years, you'd have no tenant there. So you can see your prices come up here and your rent's still down here. So your yield is really bad at the moment in Sydney, around 3%. Whereas you look at somewhere like Brisbane, and you're looking around 5% gross yield, and really that's just the relationship between how much rent you're getting versus what you spent on the investment to start with. And it basically means that it'll effectively cover itself and make it really easy for you to hold it long term to get that capital growth, which is what we're all about.
Okie dokie. We said we were going to keep this for 20 minutes for you, Lou. We're going to make it. We're just going to talk about the most important element to a number 9 in all of this, which is, of course, you. So as good as our results have been, we understand, most importantly, that we're not a good fit for everybody. But our process begins by meeting face-to-face with our clients and really trying to understand what your goals are, your investment needs are, and most importantly, what your budgets are, and not just in terms of what your borrowing capacity is, but what it is you're able to save when life is really being a cow. Economies are not always going well. Interest rates are not always around 4%. Things can turn sour. So it's very important for us to understand what it is you are trying to achieve in our very first meeting. We need to know that we are, in fact, a good fit for you, because as Scotty has mentioned a couple of times tonight, this is a long-term game. And the last thing you want to be able to do is not be able to hold your property until such time as the economy turns, until such time as that particular product starts to grow. Because it is only with the growth of that product where one is starting to make real money. So we get together, we sit down, we work out, we do a few financial analyses with you, we work out the numbers, we're using very conservative assumptions, looking at vacancy rates, things which are not as rosy as they're looking right now. And if that's sort of something that works for you, the numbers start to make sense, well then, and only then, will we then go away and try and come back for a recommendation or two that may suit you. And that's really our process, which we will discuss in a little bit more detail. If you can join us at the Pitbull RSL on the 23rd, that'll be great. I have noticed in the little private box there, we've got 2 questions. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, please type them up in the little chat box where you've got that link. Feel free to type anything. There's one here from Mary in the private box that says, do we only recommend units? Mary, occasionally, and very, very occasionally, we will have townhouses, but being at our methodology is that close to CBDs and the affordability factor that Scotty was talking about a little earlier being so important, we are generally speaking in high quality units, which I have to share with you are now outperforming homes. And that has got a lot to do with how the emerging markets demographics are shaping up, the lifestyles that they are wanting to afford, where they are having a tremendous amount of amenities in a building that is too difficult to afford in a home. So, Mary, I must tell you that most of our recommendations are, in fact, units.
Quality apartments are outperforming homes. Like Warren said, there's 85%, pretty average, but the good ones are performing really well. Next one we've got is Lito.
I think it's Lito, yeah.
What do we charge? It's a really good question. It's a question you should ask any kind of group that you're talking to about this type of thing, is, you know, how they get paid effectively, and how we get paid is, so we're a national group. We look at major capitals, inner city, as we've discussed, and then we work out who the best teams are, and then we find a developer we want to be a part of. We then pick first 15 or 20 normally apartments, and then this is where it's really important to understand this next piece. So then we get an independent bank valuer to value those 15 or 20 apartments as if they were built today, in today's market, based on comparable sales in today's market. And they set the price to make sure you pay a fair price today. So it's not the vendor setting a price of what they think they can get away with or what they think might be worth down the track. It's what an independent bank valuer thinks it's worth today. It's really important. So they say the 3rd story, 2-bedder is worth $620, for example. You as the investor pay $620,000. We get paid a 6% commission paid by the developer out of the profit he makes from that $620,000. So it's effectively like a marketing cost. Really quickly, another way, or traditional way they do it, is they might build a display suite close to the site. They do a marketing campaign to drive people there on the weekend, and they pay a real estate agent 2% to sell them. By the time you add that up to build the display suite, market it and sell it, it's about 4 or 5% anyway. But by paying us 6%, they get a national reach of qualified investors like yourself, and they'll sell those 15 or 20 quite quickly, and it costs them 6% to do that. So that's how we get paid. It's a hard cost to the developer, effectively.
Yeah. So in that valuation, the cost sits inside that square metre rate, and banks know that those costs are there always.
Any other questions? I can't see any more up in the box.
Nothing Norma's
if
chat box either.
Not, please click on the link and register. We're obviously going to this in a lot more detail. We'll have more time, and happy to answer questions that you might have. Yeah, feel free to write them down and turn up with them. Again, it's on the 23rd of August at the Pittwater RSL. We'd love to see you there, and thank you very much for your time.
Great. Good night. Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you.